radio stations, but you can head on over to supertalktv.com. You'll see I'm not alone in the studio today here on Good Things. I've got joining with me some passionate people about bringing a cool project all the way from West Point to Greenwood. Think about a 92-mile multi-purpose trail. That sounds like a good thing. We've got Dr. Craig Moffett along with Wilson Carrol, and you guys are just a part of the vision of this C&G Trail project, correct?
That is correct. We are extremely excited about it, and thank you for having us here.
Well, 92 miles, that would be the longest trail system trail in Mississippi, right?
Twice as long as anything we have in the state right now.
So that's an ambitious project, but it can be done. And how did it get inspired?
Well, I started this process back in 2007, 2008, when I was taking trips with my kids. We were always looking for fun things to do outdoors, and I stumbled across the idea of a rail trail trip. We went over to Huntsville, Alabama, where they have the Rocket Center, and nearby they had something called the Chief Ladiga Rail Trail. And so my kids and I spent 3 nights on the trail biking, and I always like to do things outdoors with them, but to realize that I could take them outside and let them ride to their heart's content and not have to worry about a car or a truck or worry about them getting in trouble in any way was just transformative. They had a wonderful time, and so we started making a habit of looking for rail trails to ride on as a family. We went to the Longleaf Trace. The Tanglefoot Trail wasn't a reality at the time, but we fell in love with the whole concept. I grew up in Greenwood with the C&G Rail Trail right behind my house, and it went out of operation in 1999 or so. There was a bridge that washed out near Carrollton. And so for 20 years, it's been sitting there abandoned, essentially, no use of it at all. And so I started pushing the idea of converting that line into a rail trail. In 2008, the C&G sold to a company called Genesee & Wyoming, a much bigger operator. And at that point, they didn't have any interest in doing a rail trail on the project. But I kept calling them. I kept pestering them. And every year we would talk, and I would say, look, I know you'd like to do something with this, but we're still here. We're still interested. And in February of this year, I was getting ready to go to a Rotary meeting in Vicksburg and got a phone call from the vice president in charge of the southern region. And he said, Wilson, we're ready to do this deal. You just need to put it together on your end, and we think it's time to turn this into a rail trail. So we have been really active since that time, and I've gotten to meet Dr. Moffett and scores of other people who are really supportive about this idea.
So, Wilson, obviously, I mean, you were kind of getting the ball rolling with people interested in it, but it was just you. So when you were going to maybe purchase it or going to the person that owned the trail at that time, were you also then collecting your community partners, or did you wait to get the phone call that this could be a go? Or were you kind of doing both simultaneously?
Well, simultaneously. When the Longleaf Trace was formed, the legislature enacted a new set of legislation called the Rail Trail Recreational District Act. And so they created a template that you can follow if you have an abandoned rail line in your community. And so we were basically following that template and following the outline that the Longleaf Trace people had already established. At the same time, the Tanglefoot Trail group was working on it. That's a trail that runs 42 miles between New Albany and Houston. Ironically, we were at about the same place at that time, but they were able to finish theirs, and it's had a tremendous economic impact there. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We don't have to. We have the good fortune of a legislative framework that's in place. Plus, we have people from these other rail trails that were so involved in building them who love it. They love the impact, and they're helping us. They're teaching us and telling us what to do. So we have a lot of good support out there.
So was it to finally get the go-ahead, was that whoever owns the trails right now say, okay, this is not a viable railroad, I guess, investment, like meaning that the railroad probably couldn't come back and do railroady things
correct.
on the trails? It had to finally kind of, tip its hat and say, okay, it's seen it's lived its best life as a rail system. Now it needs to go on to its next stage.
It took G&W 14, 15 years, but they finally said the idea of getting this rebuilt is a pipe dream. The problem is, in Greenville, there's not a bridge going across the river. So it's a dead-end railroad. It would cost them $150 to $200 million to rebuild it, and there's just not enough potential there for them to have an economic impact there from the railroad standpoint. And in the meantime, it's a huge liability exposure for them. I think they're going to be happy at the end of the day to get this off the books for them, and we're happy to help them do that by turning it into a hiking and biking and horse riding trail that everyone in these communities can benefit from.
And I feel like there's so many benefits that come with it, and that's where you come in, Dr. Moffett. When's the first time you had heard about the the trail, or you met Wilson and his crazy idea that's also wonderful?
I've also always been very highly outdoor. I had the fortune of utilizing both longleaf and tanglefoot in the past, and just kind of saw the phenomenal benefit that had to local residents, and even saw some economic benefits it was having. And this was back when I was in, even before med school. And then throughout med school, I continued using longleaf. I went to med school in Hattiesburg and lived in Tupelo area for a while, so utilized that trail. But when I practiced in a small town, and I knew that I wanted to go to a small town because I knew that I wanted to have an impact on a smaller community and really be able to hopefully create some positive change there and bring some life to these small communities, which is Mississippi's made up of a lot of great small communities. That's what makes us Mississippi. And through that, I started looking at things that I could do to help the community. Obviously, from a population health standpoint, I'm trying to do everything I can to increase care, access to care, to help hospitals and clinic systems, but also to, I noticed in my county there is, of 10,000 people, there's one small little gym owned by the hospital that's attached to the physical therapy rehab unit with like 3 treadmills in it. And there's really no place for my patients to go access. A lot of times if you live in the city, you've got 10 gyms, you can walk around the neighborhood, but my patients just had nowhere they could go to safely walk. Those with more resources might could drive an hour somewhere, but a lot of my patients didn't have the time or the resources to be able to do that. So I then heard through a common associate that we had, Johnny Mack with the Sinus Institute at Mississippi State University several months ago about this C&G Rail Trail project, and I jumped on it immediately. I was like, this is going to provide huge health impact to our area, huge economic impact. There's 3 small towns. I practice in 2 of them, and I live in one of them right where this trail is going to come through. So it's going to hit me.
What towns are those?
So I have a clinic in Maben, Mississippi, outside of Starkville. I live in Matheson, Mississippi, and then my hospital and nursing homes I work at are in Yapora, Mississippi, all kind of there on Highway 82. And this trail will follow Highway 82 for almost its entire duration across the state.
92 miles.
Yeah, so 92 miles, go right through all those local communities, right into the Delta, the heart of Mississippi there. So I was just completely fully on board from the get-go. So,
have you had anybody tell you, Wilson, nah, I don't think it'll work?
Well, there are people who would rather not see it. Typically people out in the country whose the railroad comes near their land or across their land.
But it won't be as loud.
Well, as a train, it certainly won't be. But over time, obviously, those kinds of people existed when the Longleaf Trace was being formed and when the Tanglefoot Trail was being formed. And people have come around. They've seen the benefits. And a lot of people who might have worried about, having people near their backyards, the first people to use these trails are their kids and their grandkids. They're out there having fun and getting in the outdoors. Church groups use them. Boy Scout groups use them. But the most important thing that I'm pushing, I know Craig's going to talk about the local benefits, is the tourism potential. These towns are all struggling economically. Most of them, all of them, have lost industries because of NAFTA and other reasons. They're struggling. They're on their backs. And if you can promise them, you build this and we'll bring 10,000, 20,000 tourists a year to your town, that's an extraordinary opportunity for them. And that's what happens. There's a little town called Algoma, which is halfway between Houston and New Albany. It's just a dot on the map. But they have a little campground there. I've been there several times with the Boy Scouts. And on that guest register, over the course of about 5 or 6 years, they collected over 110,000 signatures.
Whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
It's huge. It's huge. And these are people with money to spend. They come from all over the world. I'd like to say just all over the country, but literally people from England, New Zealand, Germany, they come to these trails because they want to experience what we take for granted, the authenticity, the clean air, the activities that we have. And so there's a tremendous potential there for economic benefit through tourism. Tourism is economic development. A lot of people don't think of it that way, but these folks will spend hundreds of dollars a night to stay at a B&B, to go and have something to eat. If you have a music venue, they'll go to that. If you have a store that's selling gifts or books or whatever, they'll spend money there. And then they go on to the next town. Then the beauty of this being so long is that people will stay overnight. It's not just out and back. But
it becomes like an adventure of itself to sort of see it. And then I start seeing that you're going to have annual events and trail runs and rides and things that get branded and start growing. And then you connect to other festivals and things around. I mean, I'm with you, Wilson.
You got it. You got it, Rebecca.
I got it. But we're going to figure out more and talk more about the economic impact and all the good things that can come with the C&G Trail Project coming up next. And today we're imagining a 92-mile multi-purpose trail from West Point to Greenwood. It would be the C&G Trail Project. We've got with us Dr. Moffett, who is in Newport. He is a practicing physician in Newport, Mississippi. We got Wilson Carrol, who this was your baby. This was your brainchild, but I know you had the idea, and then you have brought in all these other community partners to see it through to the end, and you're finally at the green light of getting this going. But I want to go back to you, Dr. Moffett, because I think as we're moving into this new year sort of mindset, I know we got to get over the Christmas that's coming up, health starts to become a topic of everyone's conversation. And, you know, a lot of us don't take advantage of the Longleaf Trail or the trails here in Ridgeland or some of the Tanglefoot Trail. From your perspective, those sort of free and open opportunities around that provide exercise, what kind of benefits could we all be getting from those resources here in Mississippi?
Oh, immeasurable. I mean, absolutely immeasurable. Something that I always like to talk about is a lot of drugs that someone may take for a heart condition may have 5 to 10 good studies on it. I mean, we have thousands of high-quality, well-researched studies on the positive effects of exercise, on treating arthritis, preventing heart disease, assisting with control of sugars and diabetics. I mean, just absolutely boundless ways that can help. Yes, you have the people who may not be utilizing, longleaf and tanglefoot, but you have a lot of people who are. And I think that just having that there is incredibly important. I mean, Mississippi, 5th in the nation in obesity. We have fallen some. Congratulations to everyone who's helped with that. But, we lead the nation in a lot of these bad health care statistics. And a lot of that is because of access to places to exercise and work out, whether you're maybe inner city and there's not an easily walkable neighborhood. If you're in the rural area, like I was talking about earlier, there's just nowhere that you can go to be able to walk. I mean, walking simply 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, substantially drops your chance of developing a myriad of health conditions. You can walk 30 minutes and your blood pressure will be 10 points lower for hours after that. You increase blood flow to almost every aspect of your body. You decrease dementia rates. And this is just walking.
30 minutes of walking.
Yeah, 30 minutes of walking. I mean, it really doesn't take, you don't have to do CrossFit, and as a physician, I don't recommend walking is one of the most commonly exercises I recommend to my patients. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. I mean, you just need to be, if you can, I understand there's some people with issues. Another reason this trail is good is it's going to be fairly flat, paved. There are some that can walk, but they have limitations in walking. So walking through a neighborhood with potholes and such is very difficult for them. But they could go to a trail like this and get some exercise.
And be inspired, too, to take their grandkids or take their family or pick up biking or learn cycling or, I guess, skating if you wanted to, skipping, whatever you wanted to do, Wilson. I mean, it would be open. And this idea that they wouldn't utilize all 92 miles, or most everyday Mississippians wouldn't. They may on occasion. So how do you see this in terms of phases? I mean, you go out and you do it all 92 at once, or are you going to do it in small bites? How does that work, Wilson?
We'd love to do it all at once, but realistically, that's probably more than is possible. Early on, when I started going to Rotary clubs and giving speeches about this, I was contacted by a gentleman named Kent Bain, who's with the Mississippi Hills National Heritage Area. That's a federally funded agency operating out of Tupelo, and this is in their wheelhouse. This is the kind of project they do. So they have been helping us by providing some funding. We've retained the Neil Schaefer engineering firm out of Jackson, which has experience in this. We've retained a market economist out of Nashville to help us do the economic impact statement. And just last year, the city of Greenwood agreed, the Convention and Visitors Bureau agreed to advance $25,000 to underwrite the first RAISE grant that will be applying for federal funding to do the preliminary engineering and analysis. So the wheels are turning. We have a very strong professional team on board. It's not just me at all, and I'm so gratified at the amount of support we're getting. We would love to get the entire amount of money at one time. Because it's such a big project, we may have to do this over multiple years, but we're prepared to do that. This is a big project. I've been working on it 14 years. If I have to wait 3 or 4 more, that's not a big deal. But we're very optimistic about what the future holds.
Why haven't you given up on it?
I'm just an eternal optimist, and I love this kind of stuff. I love it for my kids. I love it for my friends. I have 2 artificial hips. I used to run a lot, but I can't do that anymore. Even hiking with a backpack is hard on me. But a bicycle, I can get on a bicycle and go 20, 30, 40 miles and feel better when I get off than I did when I got onto it. You talk about people with limitations, Dr. Moffett. I'm one of them, and I can tell you from personal experience that this is an amazing way to stay in shape, to take advantage of the outdoors, and at the same time, we're going to do tremendous things economically for Greenwood and North Carrollton and Winona and Eupora and Maben and Mathiston and all the way out to West Point. This is going to be the biggest economic revitalization project in Central Mississippi in decades. So we're really excited about it.
You can't, in the ripple effects, that would be what you wouldn't be able to measure because you're just making the trail accessible or want to make the trail accessible. That would be step one. And then each of these individual communities could come in and sort of add their own, Airbnbs or restaurants or sort of gift shops or whatever that may be along the side. I mean, it's not like you're going to have a 92-mile theme park, although that would be a lot of fun. So on our text line, Bubba from Meridian said, let me know when the C&G Trail is scheduled to be completed. I'm sure Wilson would love to give you a date for that. That's like saying, when is your house going to be built? I have visited Longleaf and Tanglefoot trails. Bike riding on those trails are the best. Looking forward to more opportunities. So right there, you've got somebody who's looking. And Dr. Moffett, when you hear people say, oh, you can build it, but they're not going to get out there and necessarily do it. From your patient's perspective, I mean, when they hear about the opportunity, the potential opportunity, are they getting excited?
Yeah, they are. Everyone is super excited. A lot of my patients have small little businesses, so they're excited from an economic standpoint. But no, my patients are excited from a health standpoint as well. I mean, yes, just because you put a doctor or a surgeon in the area doesn't mean our patients are going to do everything the doctor says. Just because you have stuff in there, but you have to have it there first. You have to have the water there first for the horse to drink. As the old saying goes. So I do think that a lot of my patients utilize this. Only if 15% of them utilize it. I mean, that's 15% of my patients that are getting a free, huge health impact positively. I mean, I'll take 1%. I mean, if it's there, they have the option for it, and it will increase and it will help them. Because
really, your towns are going to use probably. There's some that are going to get out there and bike, like you mentioned, Wilson, 20 or 30 miles at a time. But there's others that's going to get out and they're going to have. Like I remember living off the Longleaf Trail, and I knew my 2 miles out and then my 2 miles sort of back, and it was all sort of the spots in between. And to be honest, I don't know if I've ever really utilized much more than that, sure, on the trails. And so they're going to have their little spots and sort of turnarounds and make it sort of their own. So you're going to have small pockets of people utilizing small pockets of the trail every day. And then you're going to have those enthusiasts who are seeking to see the whole 92.
Sure.
Kit and caboodle.
And talking about the businesses who will benefit, this is not economic development that benefits Nissan or the shareholders of Mercedes-Benz. This is mom and pop businesses, small restaurants, B&Bs, people who have music venues, civil rights museums, small town America. These are the people who are going to benefit most economically from this. And what we'll do, what was the Kevin Costner movie, Field of Dreams? If you build it, they'll come. Yeah. They will come. It's up to the local people to use their imagination and figure out how to profit from it. And not only just to benefit from it from a health standpoint, but to develop businesses that will cater to the interests and the needs of the people that are coming from all over the country and the world. We want to encourage people, if you're interested in finding out more about this, go to our Facebook page. It's C&G Rail Trail Coalition. Okay, that's C&G Rail Trail Coalition. Or you can go to our website, cgrailtrail.org, which also links to the Facebook page. We have a number of phenomenal videos which have been prepared by one of our biggest supporters, Richard Beatty in Greenwood. And he's gone to the Longleaf Trace and gone to the Tanglefoot Trail and interviewed people who live along the trail, who opposed it, but who've come around. And you can learn so much about this project and what you can do to help us if you're interested in making it happen. So go to our Facebook page, C&G Rail Trail Coalition, or the website, cgrailtrail.org. Find out more, sign up, share the news, get on board Mississippi.
get on board Mississippi. I feel that way. And I feel like people are getting excited. Our text line's starting to go. Chris and Brandon said he's a long-time bike rider on the Longleaf. There will be things that will have to be addressed, whether it's safety or some other concerns, but that comes with any kind of investment or project of this size and, capacity. I'm sure that's not, Tanglefoot has that, Longleaf has that. You guys will be able to address that as well. But that's not a reason to stop it from getting started from the start. So next steps, just going to the website and getting more educated.
We're traveling from town to town to educate people about the project and listing support. We're going to have to go to each community and county along the rail and get people to get the local governing authorities to sign on board and support us. We think we're going to have great success with that, and just continue to follow us. And we'll make announcements on the Facebook page and on the website, and we'd love for people to indicate their support and help us in any way they can.
Well, you're welcome back anytime to give us updates.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Ms. Rebecca.
I appreciate both of you and what you guys are doing. So 2 thumbs up with that. All right. I guess bike ride, helmet, I don't know. All right, stick with us. We got more coming up next.